This video is sponsored by Honkai Star Rail, and I can talk about a topic of my choosing. Well, there is one topic I wanted to dive into. Stop right there! I'm from the future where I've played through Penacony, and I need to tell you, this place is not what it seems to be. Once you enter, Honkai Star Rail is one of those games that is just not talked about enough. Anyone who stuck around for its evolution throughout its first year would tell you, it is incredible to see how dedicated these devs are to giving people fun content. Be it through the constant releasing of new forms of endgame, permanent events that give you games within games on the side, or even expanding lore in the aforementioned endgame. In a way, it seems like the players are always getting what they ask for and a little bit more. And all of this is rooted in something interesting surrounding the developers of Star Rail. It is the fact that they have a perfect read on their audience. This can become especially apparent after you start picking up all the self-referential jokes and the self-aware humor. And now, as Star Rail is pushing into its 2.0 content featuring a place called Penacony, people started going wild because Star Rail once again proved that they are not only ready to push their humor to a new level, but they are also ready to follow it up with some twists. Not to mention, they are also pushing the game forward with an entire new tech. But before we get into that, let's set up some context for how my adventure has gone. Don't trust this bear. About 2 months ago, I took a break from Star Rail. The reason was very simple. I was playing other games, I was working on bigger videos, and I also had a second child. It was right in the middle of the Battle Arena event when I stopped. But even though I didn't have time to play, I was still paying attention to what was happening around Star Rail. I've heard about the updates to late game, I've heard about all the new characters, and I have heard about the rewards for the returning players. Truth be told, this caught me off guard. It was almost scary to see all the things Star Rail started throwing at me. For not logging in, as a compensation, I got some extra rewards. You also get some limited double bonuses. And the game gave me some extra activities that would slowly reintroduce the game to me. Honestly, I wish more games did this. This system is really good at hooking people again. Also, bonus points for the entire UI looking like a metro station chart. You know, it's themed around trains and stuff. Though it's quite unrealistic. The devs have clearly never been to London. We get how many pools for just logging into Penacony? Oh, and this on top of what I just mentioned. Okay, but when can I leave this place? What's also cool to see is that your daily resources now spill into a reserve. And so after coming back, I had over 2,500 Trailblaze power. And so I spend it all on the new item set. I got one good item for Himeko. And that's okay, it's part of the experience. Lastly, there is one more thing I need to mention. When I decided to check out what story beats I have missed, I also checked out the events. And oh my god, is it awesome to see that past events are a permanent addition to the game. I missed like 3 of them and now I can play them at any point I want. This is actually awesome! This is something people brought up, the devs listened, and as a result, we got exactly what we asked for. Wait, the whole story now has one perfectly readable timeline so you can't get lost in it? It's gonna remind me of all the quests I skipped. Now of course, because the devs have such a good read on their community, they can also prepare some self-referencing jokes and burns. And so at this point, it seems like every time the community asks for something, they are gonna get it. But it's like your step-uncle from your mother's side. It won't arrive without a joke. Of course, this kind of humor has been part of Star Rail from the very beginning. The game was marketed as space comedy after all. And so, oh boy, is there a lot of jokes. You can sequence break entire quests by doing the opposite of people ask you for. You can refuse to help people, which immediately ends their quests. After finishing the tutorial, you can simply decide not to join the adventure and just end the game immediately. There is the Eternum Wars event, which is an event where you play a virtual collectible game, which is inside a collectible game. Not at all a monster collecting game though. And inside the minigame, the devs are not afraid to joke about how pay to win it is. All of this shows us that the devs are not only listening to people and they are trying to give them what they ask for, but they are also ready to join the community in making fun of themselves. Which is something very unique for a developer to do. And there is not a better proof of this happening than one of the latest characters to join this game called Dr. Ratio. This guy was just a love letter to anyone who enjoys the humor of this game. I mean, we got a character called Dr. Ratio that's holding up an L, and he's attacking enemies with that set L. If you don't make the L plus ratio connection, maybe it's you. And that's not even mentioning how Star Rail trolled everyone by simply giving him away for free. They knew exactly what they were doing, they even announced him with a holy voice. But very quickly we learned that this was only the beginning, and that Star Rail had far more aces up their sleeves. And it especially became apparent when the 2.0 teasers started rolling out. Enter Penacony. Can you stop following me? I really don't want to buy your fish cake. This place is an accumulation of everything great Star Rail released so far. And I'm not just talking about gameplay. I'm talking about story, humor connected to that story, and the dark twists that follow you literally everywhere in every story in this universe. See, Penacony was titled the Planet of Festivities. This is why you'll see a lot of happy-go-lucky vibes around. The first trailer we got revealed the Grand Plaza, the Vegas-styled architecture, and oh, cars. I can't wait to cause traffic jams again. All of which revealed that this is gonna be a great place for our favorite characters to just have some fun time. Well, you see, this was later followed by 2 more trailers. One that was animated in the style of 20s cartoons. That's obviously because Penacony is keeping its old school classic vibes. But throughout this trailer, where the totally not creepy and uncanny main character shows you the cool features of this planet, you can also notice the constant referencing to dreams. Be it that the people dream about this place, that this is a dream to live in, that the guests travel here to the world of sweet dreams, or that you can actually buy a dream beverage here. Ooh yeah, something sketchy is happening here. And so, the theory crafters around the internet started putting all the pieces together. And right now, my favorite theory is that all of this is just an illusion. The planet is just a pile of rocks that just happens to look good in your head. Which makes me wonder, where will the twist be? Will we end up being plugged into some kind of a machine, Matrix style? Or will we consume questionable things? Right now, both are possible. Maybe at once. Oh, you sweet summer child. But why do I have to be clothed though? What's also crazy is how Star Rail managed to connect all of this to a separate storyline that is happening next to this. Because in the new Myriad Celestia trailer, we get a whole new lineup of really cool villains. All of which are connected to the Eon of Destruction. Which is interesting because it just so happens to be that the main character also has a connection to it. This makes me wonder, how will the new villains be interested in them? Yet again, there is a massive potential for a good twist here. Not to mention, this entire group looks absolutely amazing. Duke Inferno aside, as well as jiggle physics, the villainous variety is real here. But here's the thing, despite Akivili, the destruction, playing a big role here, throughout its history, the entire Penacony has some strong connections to Zype, the Eon of Harmony, which opened up a whole new wave of theory crafting on its own. Because just like the Lofu had a story of conflict between the Hunt and Abundance, so will Penacony likely have a larger story about destruction and harmony. Which also means that there is the chance that the main character will get the powers of harmony here. Which makes me extremely happy, because the scene where the main character gets the Spear of Qliphoth was my favorite scene in this game. But of course, later, all of this was capped off with one more trailer. One called Sweet Dreams, the Great Tatalov. If you weren't convinced that this is gonna be a trippy ride before, now you will. Walking jacked up trash cans, giant sampos throwing us around, a massive fountain of a dreamy beverage in the background, aforementioned trash cans saving the world, sampo turning into a dream-like nightmare. This is gonna be one massive ride. And oh, when the main character gets slammed into the ground, of course it is a reference to a meme. Not to mention, the point of this entire trailer is to portray the main character as the garbage king. A reference to the main character constantly looking through trash cans throughout the entirety of the game. But again, since this is Star Rail, if you pay attention and listen to the story told in the background, you might realize this may all be a subtle hint for something big happening in the background. So if anything, all of this shows us that Penacony is gonna be a massive festival of inside jokes, self-referencing humor, and keeping you on the edge of something uncanny to happen. Which is what the players of this game love, and the devs know it. But this is where the devs also decided to push beyond their limits with the new tech that they are introducing into the game. Since Penacony is supposed to be all about dream-like places, somehow they managed to leverage the engine for a new kind of exploration. Be it by exploring the ever-shifting halls of the Hodl, the ever-changing upside-down rooms, or places where you can freely switch to walking on walls. They even highlighted a part where you can shift the perspective of the camera to build up new paths. On one side, this may seem like just a cool thing to be part of exploring dreams. But on the other side, this is actually quite impressive. You realize that Hoyoverse games are built on a modified version of Unity, right? Unless they planned for these mechanics to be part of the game from the very beginning. Especially the one where you are changing walkable angles. Trying to jam this mechanic into the game now would break a lot of things. So their technical engineers have to be a bunch of geniuses.
How is this
That's
even
cool!
possible?
Yeah, how is this possible? This is done in Unity! Lastly, I would like to mention one more thing related to gameplay. Whenever these bigger patches drop, some people are afraid that after they are done with the main story, they won't really have much to do in the game anymore. Normally, this would be true, but in many ways, Star Rail is different. Alongside these bigger drops, Star Rail likes to alternate between story beats and gameplay beats. Which means that one patch may give you a big story to explore, with the next one giving you a whole new kind of endgame. My favorite example of this is the new kind of the Forgotten Hall. Throughout its history, Hoyoverse was kinda known for not really doing much for balancing. Which is still true even for Star Rail. But cleverly enough, they still do have ways of indirectly balancing the game. Sometimes they may release a new artifact set which indirectly buffs a specific character, but my favorite kind of balancing Star Rail pulled off was by releasing a whole new kind of endgame that is entirely based around massive AoE. The reason why this is cool is because up until this point, the game was all about dealing with massive targets using a lot of single target burst, which unfortunately meant that AoE based characters were not the best. So by releasing this new kind of endgame, not only did they fix the issue where AoE characters were not amazing, but they also gave us an entire new way to play the game. Truly a genius move from the devs. But in the end, all of this leads me to one final thing I want to mention. If there is one thing that made me excited to dive into Penacony, on one side you have the cool visuals, be it the Western 1920s aesthetics, or the included animations which spice everything up. On the other side you also have the promise of the ever-evolving gameplay. You know, at this point it is pretty clear that Star Rail will continue to support their simulated universe, which is also a great endgame activity. But all of this was kinda swept down the priority after I learned about one more thing. I learned that apparently one of the writers who is responsible for writing a part of Penacony's narrative became kind of a legend in Honkai Impact III. Apparently whenever he's involved, the story takes interesting turns. Of course, being fairly new to the games of Hoyoverse, I don't really know the details. But what I do know now is that this is kind of a big deal. And as people may know, I am a little bit of a lore nerd after all. Complex stories and awesome twists? Kind of my thing. I love me some good story that surprises me behind every corner. And the recent news certainly got me excited because of it. I just hope all of this is gonna be in a totally awesome and pleasant way, because I've heard legends about Honkai Impact. Anyway, once again, this game keeps showing us that they are more than happy to give people what they wanna see. Which is great, and it is especially great for me. Because I am a bit of a mech guy. That's why I really like playing Clara. We do it for Swarog. But now, after Penacony revealed the list of guests that will take part of the festivities, we also learned about Sam, who was previously shown in Kafka's trailer as a Chad robot. So Star Rail, please. Please make Sam playable. They have a whole new progressive minigame that's just a gacha game inside a gacha game!